Eric McCrimmon, Liberal candidate for the Meadow Lake constituency in the upcoming provincial election. Now, Eric, if elected, how would you specifically help the children under the age of 18?
Children under the age of 18 need the opportunity to become members of our community and of our province. Right now, education's been underfunded by about $2 billion, and this needs to stop so that our children have the opportunity to succeed and become members of our community and become tax-paying members of our community. The Saskatchewan Liberal Party is prepared to invest in education and make sure that our youth do have the opportunity to further their education and find jobs, whether it be summer jobs or full-time jobs after they graduate, and really become real members of our community.
Now, how would you help young families?
Young families tend to move to the cities, and I think that we need to focus on preventing this from happening. Young families don't come to Meadow Lake because we don't have as much opportunities or the resources to support their development. So I think we need to invest in not just the infrastructure to make sure that businesses come to Meadow Lake, but invest in daycare and invest in public work projects to make sure that the families are attracted to Meadow Lake and the surrounding communities.
And the final point, how would you help seniors?
Seniors in Saskatchewan, opposite of the young families, they live more in the rural areas, and Meadow Lake's one of those. We need to make sure that they have the support to take care of themselves when that's possible, and when that's not possible, they need to be able to have a safe, affordable place that they can live. We need to invest more in long-term care facilities. Right now, the Meadow Lake Lodge is completely overcrowded and the waiting list is years long. We need to stop this backlog of people who aren't getting the support that they need, because they've been contributing their entire lives to our community and our province, and to throw them to the wayside now is just ridiculous.
Talking about the Seniors Lodge in Meadow Lake here, their new Pioneer Seniors Lodge has been in the works for about 7 years. Still no word on when the shovels will be in the ground. What's your take on that?
I don't think that the province or the city has done enough to contribute to this. I was talking to members from the RM, and they mentioned how much they're on the hook for this, even though they're only a small part of the population that has to contribute to it and is going to utilize it. We really need to get that going, and if elected as your MLA, I'm going to make sure that that happens immediately and is hopefully completed in the next 4 years.
Awesome. Now, what can be done to reduce the crime rate here in Meadow Lake and the surrounding communities that our RCMP serving?
In Meadow Lake, the fact is that most of the crime comes from Aboriginals, and I don't think that that's representative of how crime is committed and how people are introduced into a life of crime. We really need to support the education of all of our young people. Right now, Aboriginal education is underfunded by a ridiculous amount. They get about 60% of the funding as Northwest School Division does, and this is no way to try and prevent people from going to a life of crime. We need to really develop our relationships with the First Nations communities and ensure that everybody has the same opportunity to succeed in their life, which will prevent people from deciding on a life of crime.
Awesome. Now, what's your opinion on public-private partnerships, such as, or otherwise known as P3s, like the Saskatchewan Hospital in North Battleford and the Regina Bypass Project?
P3s have the potential to develop the businesses in the province, but by putting so much pressure on the businesses to keep that alive for years and years and years, you're not really helping anyone. You're more just putting pressure on the businesses rather than supporting them. And these are public work projects, hospitals and roads, and we need to make sure that our province owns our infrastructure or else big business and corporations will just take over and stop us from being able to use our own services.
Given the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's findings, does our education system adequately teach students about residential schools and First Nations issues in general?
I graduated 2 years ago, and I know that there's a huge focus, especially Meadow Lake, on residential schools and the 60s scoop. I do think that more people need to be educated. I know at the U of S a lot of people aren't aware of it, and this was an important part of our past, a regrettable part of our past, but it's if you don't know what happened, like the old adage, if you don't study history, you're bound to repeat it, and we really need to make people aware of what happened exactly, and through this knowledge we can prevent that from ever happening again.
So what more can be done to educate the public more on what happened?
I think that the youth are, especially in Meadow Lake, are getting a decent education about it. We can push this more in schools. I think we should have more public discussion about it and more government advertisement about what happened, why it was wrong, and how we can work to reconcile that.
With the vast industry sector of the Meadow Lake constituency area, what can you do to improve industries such as agriculture, cattle, logging, those kind of things in this area?
What I think Meadow Lake really needs is the railroad back. Nobody has been able to give me a solid answer on why it left, and that was really a lifeline for the industry in Meadow Lake. We no longer have grain elevators. The mills are forced to truck their products all the way to North Battleford to put them on a train, and this is costing the mills tons of money, and it's harder for the farmers. It's just, we really need the railroad in order to give our industries a fighting chance, and if elected, I'm gonna dedicate the next 4 years to making sure that that happens. And because if we don't get the railroad back, we're not gonna be a city for long.
Where do you stand on how we provide temporary shelter for the homeless, such as the Lighthouse or women's shelters?
Living in Saskatoon, I know that the Lighthouse does a lot of good, and there's lots of support systems in Saskatoon. I think that we really need to bring more of those kind of systems to Meadow Lake. Personally, I'm not aware of any real homeless shelters in Meadow Lake that help people year-round. We really need to step this up, but not just housing them. We need to be able to give them an opportunity for further education and give them a real chance to become members of our community again.
What are the pros and cons of privatizing liquor stores and adding more to the area?
Adding or introducing private liquor stores is a way to reduce the burden on the government. I need to collect my thoughts. I support the privatization of liquor stores because why the government is in charge of the distribution of liquor is confusing, and I don't really understand why that's a big issue. Businesses are able to provide liquor for, bars can already sell liquor to people, so why can't they just buy it in bulk and have it distributed through the province so that they still get the revenue, but have it distributed to these smaller local stores where they can then sell it more effectively.
Is enough being done to recognize the issues surrounding mental health?
Enough is not being done to recognize the issues around mental health. I know in my own school career, nobody talks about it, and that's really detrimental for people's understanding of it. So many youth are afflicted with mental health issues, and we really need to step up our awareness of it and our understanding of it so that there's not such a stigma against it, because more and more people are experiencing the detriments about this, and it's really hurting our entire province as a whole and our country.
So what more can be done to combat mental health issues?
I think just awareness campaigns is going to be incredibly useful. Educating youth in the health classes, telling them about what's happening and how people can deal with it. That we really need to focus on just educating people about the issues that are out there.
So Premier Brad Wall is against federal tax on carbon emissions, saying it is far too costly to the Saskatchewan economy. If not a carbon tax, what can be done to help combat the carbon emissions, especially from our two biggest emitters, SaskPower and Sask Energy?
In regards to the environment, I don't know if carbon taxing is the right way to go. I think we need to put more research into that. What I do think is going to help tremendously is to get SaskPower to focus more on renewable energy and to get people more interested in renewable energy. The Sask Liberals are going to be implementing a microgeneration grant. So if you put solar panels or a windmill on your property, the government's going to pay for, I believe, about 50% of that, and then you sell that back to SaskPower, and you can actually make a profit off of that, because right now you can end the year to net zero, but you can't actually get any money from SaskPower, even though they're taking the power that you're generating, which is just absolute nonsense. We really need to get people involved with a sustainable energy source and improving our environment as individuals.
And last question here, at what point would a disagreement with your party result in your resignation?
If my party starts acting like a bunch of politicians, such as what the NDP and the Sask Party have been doing, I would immediately resign from my party, but sit as an independent. Before I resign from my party, though, I'm fully committed to voting against my party if my constituents truly think something other than what the party thinks. I'm going to be elected to represent you, the constituents of Meadow Lake, not the politicians in their ivory towers in the cities. I want to help Meadow Lake and the surrounding communities in the way that's best for Saskatchewan, and if my party thinks something different, then I'm going to fight for what's right for Meadow Lake.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.